The show is made possible in part by its supporting sponsors: Blue Water Power Group of Companies, Joe's Discount Tire, and AskGuy.ca. You probably recognize this face. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, he's so handsome.
Look at you. I love the one and only thing. That's that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to say the legend himself, because then your head would go. Jay Peckham.
Yeah.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Dave Burrows.
Are you?
Well, you know what? Yeah. And I mean, I think we'll get into talking about that in a little bit. But with recent events, I was almost not on this side of the grass.
Yeah.
And it's incredible how that changes your perspective on things.
I'm sure.
You know what I mean? But we'll get into that.
I don't know what you mean, but I know what you're explaining.
Yes.
I guess is a way to put it. But,
fair enough.
Well, let's go back to the beginning, the boring beginning.
Beginning.
Where are you originally from?
Well, I was originally born in Niagara Falls, Ontario. My mom is from Pittsburgh.
Oh.
And she met my dad in college. They were going to university together in Buffalo, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was a Canadian, born in Niagara Falls as well. And they hooked up in college.
Oh, yeah.
And then they divorced when I was 7.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's my life could take up the whole hour if you want to get into the whole storyline. But
can we talk about that for just a moment?
Sure.
You know, like 7 years old, divorced. I mean, divorce is more common now than it was way back then.
Sure.
And so divorced, and then what happened?
Well, my dad went off. I mean, my dad ended up, he was, for the majority of the time that he was married to my mom, he was an executive at YMCA in St. Jamestown in Toronto. Okay. And shortly thereafterwards, he got into the travel business, and he was working for a British company that sent him literally around the world. So, when the divorce came, for the first couple of years, we got to see Dad maybe once or twice a year at the most.
Oh, okay.
But the rest of the time, we were always getting postcards. I mean, I even started collecting stamps at one point
cool.
Because my dad would just send these postcards, and he'd be in like places like Kuala Lumpur or, he was literally everywhere. He actually spent 2 years living in Australia, couple of years living in the States, in California and stuff like that. So he was very successful. He's the director of marketing for a British travel company that does motor coach tours of Europe and Northern Africa and
so
that kind of thing.
You kind of got a geography lesson a little bit.
I did. Yeah, I did. I even got a job offer to work in Italy at one point, which I turned down because, at that time, my teenage self, I looked at it as my dad was, trying to control my life, and he hadn't really been part of it for a while. Okay. And, I don't think I'm saying anything that's, like I'm not pointing fingers. I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for my father and my mother, and all of the step families.
So did you grow to stay in touch with them over the years?
Yeah, there was a period of time where I was quite angry at him.
Yeah.
And I had actually literally, I was the only one in my family that did it, but I legally changed my name to my stepfather's name at one point, just because I was so mad at my dad. And then when I met my wife, Catherine, of 29 years now, and we were talking about getting married, I just decided, well, what name do I really want? So I went back to my birth name, which is actually John Robert Peckham. It's not really Jay.
Right. And congratulations to you and Catherine, by the way.
Thank you.
I was recording this yesterday, 29 years.
Yeah,
right?
29 years.
Yeah. Congratulations, Catherine. You did it.
She did. I know. I don't know how she survived 29 years with me. And we've been actually together for almost 34.
Yeah. And I have to put this out there because you told me the story one time a long time ago. You worked together.
Yes, we did.
And you actually fired her.
I did. We were I got hired originally by the Kelsey's Corporation. I was flipping burgers at Harvey's one day, and this guy walked in off the street and just says, I want to hire you. I'm going to pay you a whole lot of money to be my dishwasher. And it was more than I was making at Harvey's.
Right.
So I bailed really quickly, and I was working for a guy named Paul Brock at Kelsey's. and I helped open all of the Kelseys in London because I was living in London at the time.
How old were you?
This had to be early 20s,
Yeah, okay.
like late teens, early 20s kind of
So
thing.
things were happening.
So things were happening. I mean, I quit my second year of grade 13. I stayed long enough to do the school show.
Right.
And then I bailed out because I was just not having it. School was just not doing it for me. So I went working, and then as it turns out, after I helped work I helped hire and staff and train and all that sort of stuff for the other 3 Kelsey stores in London. My boss, who it turns out was originally a Sarnia boy, his parents, Bruce and Marion, were big into the lacrosse scene here. And he played actually for the Detroit Turbos. But he was the general manager of the Kelseys here. And he called me up one day, and I was living in London. He said, come work for me. So I came and worked, helped open the Sarnia Kelseys when it was at the Bay, where Patty Flaherty's is right now.
Right.
And they put me up in the hotel for right behind that, the Journey's End at the time, for 3 months. And literally 24 hours a day, I was working at Kelsey's. And, there was a little partying involved and things like that. And my wife was a waitress. I was a manager. And turns out my boss didn't really like that much.
Right.
So he gave me it's either your career or her job. So
were you dating her at the time?
I was dating her at the time.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
absolutely. And we had just gone off on a weekend to visit for her to meet my dad. And we went to see Phantom of the Opera, and we were on our way home. This was a Friday that I found out I had to fire her. I didn't fire her till the Sunday. We were on our way home.
Right.
And we were in the car on the
So 401,
and
you're like,
she got a job at Brittany Arms shortly thereafterwards.
So how did she take that? Like, was that
it did not go over well, Dave, I gotta tell you. But you know what? I mean, that moment was probably the foundation of our relationship, and part of the reason why we lasted 29 years, because the truth is, I honestly believe that there are 2 secrets to any relationship. One is communication. You guys have to find you have to find that way so that when you're communicating with somebody, they're hearing it.
Yeah.
So you have to find that common ground where you guys can communicate. And the second part is no secrets.
Yeah.
I don't keep secrets from my children. I don't keep secrets from my wife, because they're cancerous. Like if you keep secrets, if it ever comes out, it will poison a relationship faster than anything else.
Yeah.
And I just don't.
Even after death.
Yes.
Right? Like, think about,
absolutely.
Clear your browser history regularly or something.
Well, exactly. And then you tell one lie to defend your secret.
It just keeps going.
And then it just builds from there. And then you never know where it's going to end.
Yeah. That's great advice.
So I do I embellish a little? Sometimes for effect. But because I love a good story, David. I mean, as you're well aware, I love a good story.
Well, and that's why this could lead us into the next part of theater. It's been a big part of your life too.
Theater has always been a huge part of my life. I think
on stage and behind the scenes too, right? Because you were on the board of directors
for 2 companies now. Actually, I was with Godrich Little Theater even before we moved here.
Right.
And now Theater Sarnia. I'm actually an honorary member.
Cool.
Life member of Theater Sarnia, and super proud to be there. I've done almost 30 shows in about 22 to 23 years.
Yeah. And some great relationships built out of that.
It's amazing that company, there's a difference with my theater family, and I call them my theater family because they really are.
Yeah.
But the relationships you develop with family are so much deeper and more meaningful, and my theater family and the people who may be watching this from my theater family, you guys know who you are, without naming a lot of names, but there's, the first people to come to my rescue anytime I need it is my theater family.
Yeah.
one of the first.
Yeah.
And the relationships you build when you have to, as an actor or a director, or a stage manager or backstage set builder or whatever, when you lay yourself open for that kind of criticism, and you know that what you're doing is going to be seen by an audience and judged by an audience, and that sort of thing, and you lay yourself open like that, and you become that vulnerable, the people that are there to support you, it builds this relationship that is just so strong and so deep and meaningful that, it's just incredible. I mean, it's fun to do, but then the interesting part is when the show ends and you just kind of tuck it away into your memory banks and you put it in a photo album or something like that.
Yeah.
And you move on to the next project.
Yeah.
There's a lesson in there somewhere, a life lesson in there, about letting things go, because
Are you good at letting things go?
I would say,
or you just gotten better
yes
at
and
it?
no. I've gotten better at it, and
Yeah.
theater certainly has helped me to do that. But I mean, I look back at my, I could probably name the majority of the shows that I've been in still. And I remember very distinctly a lot of the memories from there.
Yeah.
And the fact that some of those relationships have lasted as long as they have
Outside of the theater.
outside of the theater, is really a testament to that. So do I let things go? Yeah, the petty things. I let the petty things go. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Right.
And that kind of thing. But I am a collector.
Yeah.
And truthfully, I let a lot of things go that serve my priorities. And friendship and relationships and that sort of thing are really sort of my priority.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of that. So, do I have friends that I've been with or close to for 55 or more years? The answer is yes. Even my Sarnia friends, I have Kelsey's friends, that I'm still friends with, and that's been 34 years.
Yeah.
And then there's my theater family, my Sting family.
Oh, the Sting.
Yeah.
Oh, he had to bring that up.
Of course I did. Of course I did. But, my media friends, my school friends, I have a rather large and broad network.
Well, and that
so I don't let those kind of things go.
Yeah, support network too. You were recently featured in the Sarnia Journal.
Yeah, that was surprised. I was surprised, overwhelmed.
Yeah. Even I said nice things about you.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I mean, Kathy Dobson from the Journal, she called me. She said, "Jay, this is going to be about 15, 20-minute interview, and then I'll do a little back stuff, and I'll get an article in for you." I'm like, okay, great, And we talked for almost an hour and a half on the phone.
Right.
And I know she called you, and she called
Yeah.
some of my theater friends, and Jake Burry from the Sting, and Holly from the theater, and I can't believe you guys said such nice things about me. It was just amazing. But
well, she did say, like, give me your address, I'll send you a check in the mail.
Yeah, oh, nice, perfect, perfect. As long as somebody benefited out of this,
right? No, she called me. Actually, I was quite busy. It's hard to nail me down in a day, and she was randomly trying to. I forget where it was.
Yeah,
I was doing. It might have been Border Fest or something. But anyway,
for sure.
Actually, I finally called her back. I was leaving Border Fest. I was driving home to do something, and I said, "You have about 2 minutes."
Absolutely.
And it turned, actually, by the time I got to where I needed to go, I sat in that parking lot for probably another 20 minutes.
Right.
And the reason was, it was difficult for me to find the words, and the reason is not because, well, how do I say this and be nice, but it was more like, boy, there's so much I could say about Jay Peckham.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things are well, not a lot of those. All those things that I could say about you are very genuine, right? And I knew, a little bit of your journey
Yeah.
with the transplants and everything. And I was just trying to remember, like, how far back do we go, right? And it was difficult for me to come up with what I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And I was really, really glad that she put in what she did there.
Yeah.
And,
I thought the article was really well done, and I
yeah,
just,
she did.
you know, I'm really overwhelmed,
Yeah.
you know, because you know, I keep asking the question about, you know, what have I done in this life to sort of deserve that
Right.
kind of positive
Yeah.
input. And I think, you know, I've tried, Dave, really hard to do the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, you know, not at all costs, but you know, in terms of, you know, when you're faced with a choice between the right thing and the almost right thing or whatever, you know, if you make the right choice, then good things will happen.
Usually.
You know, and it doesn't matter how difficult that right choice might be.
Yeah.
You know, if you do the right thing, there's very few downsides.
Yeah. Well, I mean, bad things happen to good people.
Yep.
But so why make it any worse than it has to be? Make good choices, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I mean, the challenge is real.
Because when we make a bad choice, don't we really know? We know, don't we?
And it eats at
I
you.
shouldn't
you know,
be doing that. I shouldn't be doing that.
Exactly.
It's like, don't put your hand in the cookie jar. You know you're not supposed to do that
100%
5 minutes before supper. But I really want that cookie.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's hard to come over, you know, human instinct in some cases.
Some
but
really good cookies out there.
There's some really good cookies out there. Yes, there are. Yeah. I can think of a dozen off the top of my head.
Well, cookies.
Cookies.
Sarnia Sting has been part of your life for over 20 years?
Yes,
or
sir.
All 20 years? Or 20,
yeah, at least. Long? Well, I mean, they started in 94.
Yeah.
And that was the year I got married to my wife.
Yeah.
And we had Emily in 96 and my daughter Emily, who's now 27. And I think it was just shortly after that I got involved with this thing. It was just around the 99-2000 season, somewhere around there. And I've been sort of with them ever since. I just literally had somebody who invited me to a game. And it brought back lots of memories because, you know, growing up in Mississauga, I remember my father taking me to a Marlies game.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just such a great memory. And, you know, being in Maple Leaf Gardens back in the day and seeing those kinds of old school hockey arenas, I don't know, it just ignited something. And so I started going, and then when my boys got old enough, you know, I sort of took them, and then eventually I became a season ticket holder because I was going year after year, and it just made sense for me to do that. And at one point, when I really started first doing the season ticket holder thing, it was because I had a group of friends, and literally what we would do is, and it was a whole lot of fun. We would, there would be like, I think we got up at one point to 9 guys.
Wow. And
we bought 5 seats, right? And then we would get together in the spring or in the summer when the Sting schedule came out. And then we would literally draft games.
Right.
Right. So you would get X number of tickets because most of my friends are shift workers.
Yeah.
And they knew they couldn't go to every game.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I was trying to make it to as many games as I could, you know, and there was a rule. I mean, if you had a ticket and you couldn't attend the game, you had to offer it free to the group first.
Right.
Invariably, I became the recipient of a number of extra tickets. Jail go, you know, and so I went to as many games as I could, and I just loved it. And then when I ran into you at that first Friday the one time, and you were telling me, Jay, I just got connected with the Sting, and I'm going to do some video stuff for them, some live streaming. And I'm going, oh, that's great, Dave. And you said to me, I remember this distinctly. You said, I think I can probably spell sports 3 out of 5 times. Something along that line.
I remember my friend saying to me, congratulations, but you don't even know how to spell sports. How'd you get that game? And I learned, I faked it a lot. I mean, I could watch a game and go, Oh, well, they're up 3-0. I mean, duh, you can,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
some of that stuff, but yeah,
So I got to play the crazy fan from the
yeah.
stands that thinks he knows
Well, and I
everything.
remember it was kind
And
of
it
like a
was just,
one-time deal. It was like, come on down, sure,
yeah,
you can. I'd
sure.
love to. Okay, and then I didn't see, and then we did it again, and then I think I kind of said, hey, it was the following season they moved me
Yeah,
upstairs, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah, I
I
remember
said,
that first season down
yeah.
right behind the
I was
the
behind
glass
the
there.
nets, right? I would
Yeah,
go to each end to try to capture the goals
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah. And then when they moved me upstairs, I don't know. We just kept bumping it. I think he was stalking me.
Yeah,
Really
no,
what he
that's
was doing.
not
It's
it
like,
at all. I was just there,
I wonder
and
if I can steal his microphone if he sets it
dude,
down.
it was just, it's way too much fun. It's way too much fun and right in my
Yeah,
wheelhouse. So,
yeah. Then it was
and he
just
always
like,
made it easy on me. That was the greatest thing, right?
yeah, for the most part. I mean, like I think sometimes I tried to trick you, but
Yeah.
it didn't work out too well.
But I mean, our
It has
communication
been, yeah.
fits, and
Well, I've been with this thing, I
love
think,
that.
about 8 years now. So
Yeah.
that's, we're probably about 6, I guess. In there,
Yeah,
something like
probably
that.
pretty close. Yeah.
And yeah, we've had a lot of fun with it, right?
We've had a
and
ton of
Lord
fun.
knows I can spell sports now.
Yes.
I've learned a lot of things. So we're welcoming me back again and into different
That's awesome.
other things too. So
Yeah.
it's been a journey for both of us.
Well, absolutely. And it's great because you know what? I think if nothing else, it says a lot about our community, number one.
Yeah.
That we can support this with a population of only 75,000, we can support an OHL team, I mean, Sting fans, they can be a little fickle, but for the most part, we're still getting 3,000 people a
Yeah.
game.
One of the great things about the final game where they were done was the fans still stuck around to the very
Oh my
end.
goodness. It was such a great
was,
season this season. And
yeah.
it was really unfortunate that I missed the best part of the end of
But
the
you
season.
were there in more than one way,
Yeah,
because
well,
I know
that's
you were watching it on television, but
100%.
Sting Nation was behind you as well,
Well,
following you along. Talk about that.
well, you know what? This is it's a Facebook group that I joined a little while ago when it first sort of came on board, and I sort of got invited, and my Sting family were all part of that, and it grew pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
They have just been so incredibly supportive, these people, and I think that, again, it says a lot about our community, about living in Sarnia, and the kind of people that live here, because not only do they support the team, and it's all very positive, and we get to talk about in the Facebook group, we get to talk about the team and trades and who's doing really well, and when they go on to their further careers with NHL, AHL, college, whatever, we get to follow some of the guys. Dill just got picked up by the AHL, he's going to the AHL, and I thought they said something about the Marlies, so which is terrific. I mean, it keeps them here in Toronto and local in Canada and stuff. So we get to follow that kind of stuff. But when I started getting ill this season, and some of the Sting activities, like my hockey card collection, and I would put it out to the Sting, and it's a Sting Nation, and we posted some of my health journey with Sting Nation, and the amount and the flow of support from that group alone was just outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
When we were talking about looking for a potential live donor, because that's a fairly long process, and we can talk about that again in a little bit. But when we first started doing that, my wife put out that post to Facebook, Sting Nation, we ended up with close to 500 shares.
Mm-hmm.
That's shares. That's not likes. That's shares.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how many thousands and thousands of people saw that post. And from that, the number of people that stepped, I actually had my care coordinator with the transplant unit at University Hospital in London. She came into my room when I was an inpatient, and she said to me, straight up, we're not staffed for this. Because the number of phone calls that they were getting of people who were willing and interested in being a donor for me, people I didn't even know,
Yeah.
Calling from out west and the East Coast and stuff. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Like their answering machine just filled right up. And,
who's this Jay Peckham guy?
I know, right? And, Sting Nation was a big part of that, which was absolutely incredible. But, it's like that Cheers thing, I walk down into my section, and it's like, Norm, it's,
well, and you've been connected with the Sting for a long time as a fan, and then you're pretty loud.
Well, I've lived a very public life, Dave.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then being on the podcast too, right?
For
all
sure.
That, and all of that combined puts in there.
Yeah.
And then theater, there's some fans there too.
Yeah.
So. Well, let's go into we can go back to some other things in the past, but let's talk about your transplants, and this just come out of nowhere.
Well,
or did it?
It you know what? To a degree, it did.
Yeah.
So, sort of the progression of my recent health journey over the past probably 2 years has been, I was having some tummy issues, and I ended up being diagnosed with, gallstones and things like that. So they wanted to take out my gallbladder. So they did. And that was fairly simple day surgery, really. And about a week or so later, my surgeon called me up and said, by the way, while we were in there, we noticed that your liver is grossly cirrhotic. Okay. And that was a giant surprise. I knew from my visits, my sort of regular visits to my family doctor, that every time they did blood work, my liver enzymes were a little high, but nobody ever seemed to be concerned about it.
Right.
And so when I got that diagnosis, that was sort of what started, the whole liver journey. And then I got referred to an internal medicine doctor in Sarnia, Dr. Shetty. And thank you to him, because one of the things he did was he went back to all of the tests I'd had done in probably the last 20 years. He was very thorough. And he found that in 2012, I'd had an MRI of my head. And there was another problem on top of that, which was I have a small benign tumor in my pituitary gland, which is causing me some issues still today. So in December, we were about to start the surgery to remove that. And they called it off. I was on the table staring at the lights, hooked up to every machine in the, that they had, including the most expensive machine in the hospital,
right,
and the one that goes bing, right? Sorry, Monty Python reference. I apologize. But anyway, and
you never lost a sense of humor. Folks.
No, not at all. It's important. The sense of humor is important. But anyway, they called it off because there was something in my blood work, then clotting factor, and they didn't want me bleeding into my brain, sort of thing. So
probably not a good idea.
Not a good idea. So they called it off. And thank you to Dr. Sonia Payne, my anesthesiologist, who called it off at that point. She was brilliant, came in and explained everything to me. So they sent me home. And then in January, the liver really started to kick in terms of going more towards failure. I started having challenges with my blood work and, getting a little bit jaundiced, and my liver was starting to actually fail, which is when I got connected with University Hospital in London, which I can't say enough. The MOTS unit, which is the multiple organ transplant unit at University Hospital. This team of people are absolutely second to none in terms of knowing what they're doing and how they work with their ultimately very sick people. These are people that need kidneys and livers and hearts and lungs and that sort of thing. Although lungs they do in a separate thing, but heart, kidneys, and liver are their primary things. But what an amazing staff. I can't say enough. And I ended up, they brought me in January to sort of assess where I was, right? Effectively, that was a 3-week hospital stay. And they had to get my blood balanced again and working properly because the liver wasn't doing its job. And by the time they got that done, they sort of sent me home, but they also realized I was having cardiac issues on top of it. So I ended up having my heart fixed by having some stents put in because of the calcification and that sort of thing. And then once my heart was fine and pumping properly and I was off the blood thinners from that, then I got on the transplant list. And that happened around, I want to say probably April, I think was roughly when that happened. That was the last day I was able to go into work, but I had spent a bunch of time in January, February and March in and out of hospital with, inpatient stays, and I missed a lot of Sting games and
well, it's
things
interesting
like that.
you say that because
I got really sick.
Yeah, and I do remember that time because you became absent from the production, right? But what I can tell you though, what was is you were a little stubborn about it because it was like I remember you coming and doing one pregame show with me, and then you were like, Dave, I can't do the rest of them. I'm so sorry. You felt so bad that you couldn't do that with me. And I was like, Jay, it's like, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. I'll do it on my own, or I'll grab somebody. Lee Baisley stepped in really well.
You did, absolutely.
But you were more concerned about not being at something you felt was a responsibility of yours to be at. And then it was like, Jay, hey,
it's something
take care of your health.
Yeah, it was
You're
something
like, but I get it. I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I do the same sometimes, but you're showing your passion.
Yeah.
And your genuine all inness.
Yeah.
And
I'm a jump with both feet kind of guy.
Right, and that's just it. You go all in. So
and I don't like I don't like to disappoint people. So it's not so much that I
was
felt
so disappointed that you weren't there because you were not doing well.
It's. I know, but you know what? I mean, it's things like, when you make a commitment, you do whatever you can to live up to that commitment. And I mean, that's just when we talked about doing the right thing. That's the right thing to do.
Yeah, you and I are
I give that way, I don't expect things in return.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the part that was really overwhelming when I first started really getting ill. Is that response that came out, that came back. When you do the right thing and you give of yourself, when they say that it'll come back tenfold, they're not kidding. It's not an old wives' tale.
Yeah.
It comes back to you.
But you give genuinely and sincerely with no expectation. Yeah. And it's to me that,
thank you.
It's the platinum room. Just do because it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
And maybe something will come back, but at least you're doing the right thing. And that all these things, from the transplant to everything else you just described, where's your mental health in all of this?
Well, I think you alluded to a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And I love that because truthfully, humor has gotten me through an awful lot of challenges.
Yeah. Prior to this.
I mean, exactly.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where if you can laugh about it,
like firing your wife.
Absolutely. When you can start laughing about it,
Can we still laugh about it with Catherine?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, okay.
No, she's used to this. Let me tell you, she's so used to this now. It's crazy. But, if you keep your sense of humor about you, I think that is really quite helpful.
Yeah.
I will admit that I've struggled with my mental health over
Mhm.
this period of time. And I think the hardest part, Dave, has really been, the hospital stays where I spent a lot of time, sort of by myself. I'm such a social individual. I love being, where people are, and I love being with my family and my friends, and my, all of those people that, sort of feed my soul.
Mm.
Even our communications,
Yep.
they're always so meaningful and impactful. I remember a lot of them. And, those not being around that and having that,
Yeah.
anytime I want was a real struggle. I mean, I battled, at that time. And even now, my mobility is still not terrific. Although I'm getting stronger and stronger every day with the new liver, and it's going very, very well. Um, uh, there is still some moments where, it's like, why can't I be the way I used to be?
Yeah, sure.
And it does get me down a little bit, but then, 5 minutes with, an interview with you, or
Right.
my kids come home or whatever, and, all is repaired.
Yeah. And then you had support from SOTA, the organization?
Yeah, you know what? Here's another great organization, and let me tell you a little bit about SOTA, because, I always had that acronym in my brain because I thought it was rather clever at one point, but I never really knew sort of what they did or
Well,
whatever. I mean, I've always been
it's one of those
on the
things
organ
until you
donor
need it,
list,
right?
until you need it. And then I came across it because I think I saw an older ad for the Jazz Fest or Blues Fest or
Yep.
whatever that they do in Minton Village. And I thought, you know what? I'm in the middle of this journey, and I'm such a public dude that I'm in the middle of this story. It's developing around me. I'd love to be able to, give them a call and share my story. And if it gets a few more donors
Yep.
to come forward, because they talk about how every organ donor has the opportunity to save up to 8 lives or improve the lives of 8 people, whether it's your eyes, your corneas, your heart, your liver, your lungs, your kidneys, whatever. There's 8 people that can benefit,
Right.
up to 8 people. So, it's really, really ultra important. So I reached out to SOTA, and I called Sue, who's the chair of the organization, Sue Morrison Weir.
Yep.
And we ended up talking for probably close to 2 hours on that first
Who
first
did
phone
most
call.
of the talking, Jay?
Well, it was probably me. And no, it was definitely me.
Right.
Mea culpa. I'm sorry, but it was a good conversation, and really my only objective was just to sort of share my story and say, how can I help? But about halfway through the conversation, Sue says to me, she goes, "Are you on the list? Like as a recipient, as an intended recipient?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "You do realize that I don't have you on the list, number one. And number two, if you're on the list, we have resources available to help you. We
Oh.
cover some things, to help you out during this time because, you're so sick and you have to travel, So they covered things for me. Like within 24 hours, I had some gas cards in my mailbox.
Oh.
Like it was that quick.
Cool.
And
didn't
it
know
just
they did
paid
that.
for a little bit of travel back and forth to London for me and my wife for appointments and that
Well,
sort of
'cause
thing.
it adds up.
And it does, and when I got out of the hospital after the transplant, I had to get into a hotel. They covered some of the cost of the hotel,
Oh, wow.
and they helped me arrange things and things like that. Like this is an
So
organization
you're an advocate
that's
for SOTA now.
100%.
Yeah.
Anything that I can do. So, check. So I can't remember the name of the website.
It's okay.
Honestly, I think
We'll put it in the
put it in
comments
the
and-
thing, but
yeah.
I think it's Sarnia .ca or something along that line. But folks, if you're not a registered organ donor, make sure when your next driver's license renewal, check that box. Contact SOTA. Support them through fundraisers through all their, all that sort of, which is amazing.
They won't take my liver though, Jay.
No, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
That's why I didn't offer it to you.
Well, you know what? I would have given my liver, but I just donated my liver to the scrap bin,
Right.
so, fortunately, and, I think that was another hard part of the journey was, from a mental health perspective, when you have to reconcile yourself to the fact that someone actually passed away in order for me to continue living, in a manner that was, befitting. I can't say enough to the person, whoever it was, it's completely anonymous. And I'm okay with that. But, it's just another incredible reason to be thankful, and it changes your perspective.
Well, I was just about to say, like, we've heard these types of stories of, I look at life in a whole new different way. And I mean, I can say, like I would look at it. I haven't experienced anything to that effect of you. So how are you looking at it differently?
Well, I think, number one, it makes you appreciate things that much more, because I can tell you that when you can't do something because you have this significant barrier, you have to look at that barrier differently. And when that barrier is removed, there's a newfound appreciation for reaching that goal, because you've overcome a barrier. And some of the barriers that I've faced, or that anybody, in an organ, with organ failure faces, it's amazing, once that sort of turns around. Now, there's some consequences. I mean, I'm going to be on certain medications, for the rest of my life, but, it's a small price to pay to get some of my quality of life back.
Right.
I may not get 100%, but you know what? The alternative means that 80 or 90% is good enough for me right now.
Will you get back to a Sting game?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And will you get back on a motorcycle?
Well, that's a problem that is left to be determined.
Right.
Because the only issue now is that pituitary tumor.
Right.
And it's pushing a myoptic nerve, causing double vision, which means if I'm looking at you and the camera at the same time, that's part of that's probably not a good idea.
But you could get on the back of mine, right? Couldn't you?
Well, maybe.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not getting on the back of your bike.
No, I'm not riding in that seat. Sorry, pal.
We can take you out for a drive, though.
But you know what? Are you
allowed to have
my
ice
riders,
cream?
my yes, 100%. My riders club that I'm the Canadian Motorcycle Cruisers, great group, and they've been incredibly supportive as well. And I miss them terribly. Man, I miss the motorcycle. I mean, there's a few things I miss: theater, the Sting, but my motorcycle is just one of those things. And you as a rider, I know you
therapy.
Absolutely understand.
I could always like toss you in the front of the Firebird and we could go for a ride with the CMC.
I would love that.
And just get out.
Yes,
okay,
I would love that.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Your family. Let's talk about Catherine, your beautiful wife.
Oh my God, yeah.
I think I knew her before I knew you.
Probably.
And then I knew you and didn't realize you and her were together. And then I went, right. And because she was a pool player too, that's how I knew her too. And from the bar world as well. I remember it, Brittany.
Yeah.
I'm aging myself now too.
Yeah.
Your children now, though, what are they doing?
Well, my kids are. I mean, I've been very, very fortunate, and I've got 3 great kids. My daughter Emily is a recent graduate from Teachers College, so she has her undergrad from Laurier University as a Bachelor of Health Sciences, and then she went on to University of Windsor where she did her Teachers College, and she's working for the Catholic School Board now as a substitute teacher, and she's looking for something a little more full-time, permanent, and her kids love her. She just did a stint with an organization for a summer gig where she was basically a camp counselor sort of
Okay.
thing for a group of young people from all over the United States and actually all over the world. As a matter of fact, they had some people in from Paris and Turkey and all that sort of stuff. And they were in the Florida Keys doing sort of an environmental tour
Oh, cool.
down in the Keys. And she spent 18 days down there with them. And she was their favorite counselors. Anyway, so she's doing really,
is she
really
mom
well.
or dad?
She's the best of both of us,
Yeah.
honest to God, Dave.
Great answer.
You know, it really is. It
Yeah.
really is that way.
Yeah.
You know, and then my son Jack, my son and heir, John Robert the Fourth, he's working for CN Railway,
Yeah.
which is that's even a longer story. Where
he's liking it.
The job is challenging because
Sure.
it's not as hands-on as he prefers.
Okay.
He likes working outdoors. He likes working with his hands and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of sitting on a train kind of thing.
Right.
So,
Right.
but he's good at his job. It pays well, and he's doing really well with it. And he's got a significant other at the moment,
Okay.
and she's terrific, and they have a lot of fun together, and it's great. But and then my youngest, Nicholas, actually, he works for the same organization I work for, SFA, which
Yep.
St. Francis Advocates, and we have 13 locations where we support adults with autism and developmental disabilities.
Mhm.
And while I'm in the administration, working with HR and IT and communications and that sort of thing, he's working frontline at our location in Forest. And when he's at school at the University of Windsor in the psychology program, he works at our Windsor location. So, it's terrific and very rewarding work. And Nicholas just loves it. I mean, it really has sort of steered his goals for the future, in terms of getting a degree in psychology and working in that field and that sort of thing. He's, of all my children, he probably struggled the most as a young person with mental health and those sorts of things. And to see him and the changes that he's made in his life in the last 3 to 5 years is absolutely incredible. And he's doing really, really well at school. I mean, I'm just so proud of him. It's great.
Awesome.
So, I've been blessed with 3 amazing children, and frankly, it's come back. I mean, in my time of need, my family, they were all there, and quick shout out to my mother-in-law as well, Deb Winterton, who, we've struggled. My mom passed 2 years ago, and my father-in-law passed just not that long ago, just about a year ago now. And same day the Queen, she stood him up, right?
Oh wow, she stole his thunder.
She stole the thunder, yeah, absolutely. Otherwise it would have been Brian Winterton Day,
Right.
But anyway, we've gone through some challenges, but she's handled it with grace, and she's been one of the very first people to kind of come when I needed her most, and get me to the hospital or take me to an appointment.
Sounds
or something like that. So
like you got it going on pretty good.
you know what? It's hard to count my blessings without taking my socks off.
And, yeah. Okay, I want to. We got to start wrapping up soon, but I want to go back to the Sting here for a minute. Okay,
For
I'm just
sure.
going to ask you some questions.
You lay it on me.
And I know Jay has. I've had to reel you in a couple of times. On
Yeah,
the
yeah.
show.
No,
It's like,
fair enough.
Whoa, leave the referees
Fair
alone.
enough. Yeah.
Alan Letang.
You know what? I think, considering all the coaches that we've had, I like the direction Alan has taken the team, because, I think we went through that Dave McQueen era where, his coaching style was very much a this is what I'm coaching. You just do it.
Right.
You know, he was that style of coach, that Brian, that Killer Kilrea, that
Be here
style
or be
of coaching,
gone.
be here or be gone.
Yeah.
You know, you're either, you know, and frankly, with the new group, the new sort of millennial generation, that style just doesn't play anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Alan, number one, is a former Sting player.
Right.
But now being a coach and having that NHL experience and having, you know, whatever, I think he's a little more in tune with what, you know, sort of our players need at this point. And frankly, we've had our most successful year ever
Right.
under Alan Letang. So I'm really interested to see where this goes next year.
Yeah.
You know, because even around with the coaching, his
And the whole coaching staff.
his
quite
whole coaching
honestly.
staff, you know, and you know, sort of even the game day and the Sting sort of organizational people have changed up and really sort of bought into, you know, more of a shared philosophy.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, is really motivated by the team itself. And so I really like where it's going.
Okay.
So right now, 2 thumbs up for Alan Letang.
Yeah, right on. In-game experience at the Sarnia Sting.
You know what? Okay, so here's my story around that, and I'll try and make it as short as I
Yeah,
can.
that's okay.
I once got tickets to a Red Wings game,
Okay.
and they were playing the Leafs, and you know, we went to Detroit to watch it, and you know, as much as I was, you know, free tickets, well, these tickets would have been $275 a piece
Oh, wow.
for the seats.
Probably U.S.
And we were, and that's US. And we were up in the second tier, you know, and it was like watching a tennis match. There were no great plays. It was just, you know, one, and I'm paying way too much for a beer and a slice of pie, you know, like it was just, you know, and then the travel back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, this was $600 to $750 day,
Easily.
you know, to see an NHL game. And it wasn't that exciting for me. Now, you go to a Sting game. I'm 6 rows off the ice.
Right.
I can smell hockey.
Right.
I can hear them swearing when they're not doing well. You know, you can feel that emotion. Yeah. And then you get in with a group of season ticket holders, you know, who have totally bought into this thing. And the excitement and you know, just the physical environment is exciting. It's electrifying. And I just, you know, if you're interested in sports at all, you know, this is the kind of experience you want to have, you know. And I think the other thing I really enjoy about it is, in terms of the OHL, you know, these kids are still playing because they love the game.
Right. They haven't,
you know, and they've got something to prove, not just to themselves, but to the team and to the league, you know, and they're hoping to get to that next level.
Yeah.
So the kind of passion they're playing with, you know, it shows up in their gameplay, and it's just exciting to watch, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, for me, the experience, the in-game experience, you know, and, you know, even the vendors and all that sort of stuff, you know, and the radio and the music and stuff like that, it all comes together.
Yeah.
You know, and they're doing such a great job of it now. You know, my hat's off to the city of Sarnia and to the Sting organization for the quality game day experience that they're providing.
Yeah.
For their fans.
Well, and Jake Burry and his team really work.
And the fact that they, you know, they do a lot of recognition stuff, you know, for former players. They bring them back occasionally.
And, you know, I don't know if you know, there's only a handful of people doing this
Yep.
at the Sting, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
The only thing
I will say, the only thing I will say is I've been to every OHL arena now following the Sting on a road trip every year. And my guys every year, we doing a road trip this year?
Yeah.
So I've been to every away arena right now.
Yeah.
They had cheerleaders in Ottawa.
Oh yeah, you want
cheerleaders.
You want cheerleaders
in the aisle? Cheerleaders. I'm saying thumbs up, 2 thumbs up for cheerleaders. You go, Ottawa.
We'll put that request in. Actually, right?
Absolutely.
Right. What's
But
next? What's next for Jay Peckham?
well, I still have some rehabilitation left to go
Yeah.
in terms of getting better, but I'm out, sort of walking the neighborhood right now
Okay,
with my
good.
walker. I'm getting stronger every day, climbing stairs, that kind of thing. I want to definitely reconnect, with some of the communities that I've missed and who have missed me, over the past 6 months to a year. While I've been really quite ill. And I'm so looking forward to all of that, getting back to the arena and getting back on stage or behind stage or, reconnecting with all my friends. But, and I'm looking forward to supporting and doing some of those fundraising pieces. And honestly, I'm really looking forward to getting back to work.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, as much as I know people complain about their job, I love what I do.
Yeah.
And I can't say enough about SFA and the organization because, it's a small organization and we're very rural, and it has this very family feel to it. So our executive director, Jean-Paul Caza, he's like a brother, and I miss these guys, every last one of them, and I can't wait to get back at it and be productive and know that I'm doing, the right things and giving back again. I've been getting a lot recently, and I think it's part of that has really refilled the tank, and now I've got that much more I want to, put out there and give back to my family, my friends, acquaintances, and my communities.
I think you will be doing that for a long time to come, my friend.
I hope so, brother. I really do.
Well, I kind of like to keep you around a little
Yeah,
bit
for
too.
sure. I love doing this kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I can't wait to get back to the rink and really let it rip this time.
I don't know. Lee Baisley there. He's doing
I
a pretty
know.
good job. You got
Yeah.
a little competition in there.
Lee Baisley, I will rub you out.
There's Connor Burton. He was in there too. And,
okay, Connor, you're on my hit list.
All right.
There you go.
Jay, I can't thank you enough for your time. And of course,
thanks, brother. I
just
appreciate it.
adore our friendship. It means a lot to me.
And to me as well, man. I really
thanks
do.
for allowing me into your home. And
100%. Welcome to my corner.
This is quite the corner.
Yeah.
We could do, I don't know, we just do a documentary. We're calling Netflix. We're going to do a documentary
100%.
on Jay Peckham, right? We could get 4 episodes out of that.
Yeah, we could.
Listen, everybody, take the time to click the like, of course, but I always say, click the share button. It's the most important button you can click on. Share Jay's story and all the other people that I interview. Share their stories. Everybody's got one to tell. You might be next. But that's all the time I got for you this week. Have a great week and an even better weekend. We'll see you next time right here in the show.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye for now. That was it.